To the One Celtic Fans View this morning with myself, Baz. What a fantastic day it was yesterday, and I make no apologies for the Banter Years videos. I mean, I started Banter Years videos around about 12 years ago, so I'm not going to stop them. For the people that are saying, don't you think it's enough? No, it's not, because when you grew up a Celtic fan, and when you lived through the 1990s, this is karma, and I am going to milk it for all it is. And anyway, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, yes, here we do have a countdown timer to the opening of the transfer window. Yes, the transfer window countdown timer is on, and there's been lots of speculation about who will leave Celtic. We'll talk about that this morning. Who will come into Celtic? Obviously, big speculation about who we're expecting to come into Celtic. Just got to raise that desk a little bit. That's a bit better. So there's lots to talk about this morning, and Kyogo Furuhashi has taken to Instagram this morning. Yep, Kyogo's been up nice and early this morning, and he took to Instagram, as you could see with the picture that is up here. Yes, that was Kyogo on Instagram just around about 40 minutes ago now. He's taken to Instagram and he says, the last match in 2024. For a year, with everyone's support, I was able to finish a good game at the end. I will do my best in 2025. Kyogo's going nowhere. Kyogo's going nowhere this transfer window. He will be at Celtic. I do not expect Celtic to sell Kyogo Furuhashi in this transfer window. It would be absolute madness. Excuse me. It would be absolute madness to sell Kyogo Furuhashi in this transfer window. Will he be sold in the future? Of course he will, because he's at that age where he will be looking to get one big last payday, and Celtic will be looking to cash in on their asset at 30-year-old, getting any kind of money for a striker. Now, let's face it, he is prolific on his day. It's not been the best of seasons for him. It's not been the best of 2024 for Kyogo, but you have to say he is going absolutely nowhere as far as I am concerned. Anyway, Tam Tierney says, I love your videos, banter and all. Exactly, you know what it means, the shit that we had to take back in the day. Keep it up, Baz, says Tam Tierney. Before we go any further, I am going to jump into the comment section and just see who's all on this morning, because it is an early start and people will be like, Baz, come on, you started before 9 o'clock in the morning. There's going to be a few Celtic videos over the next couple of days as I aim to end the year on a high, and it has been a fantastic year for the One Celtic Fans View. And as we get closer to the bells tomorrow night, we'll sign off the year in style. Yes, we will sign off the year in style. Anyway, Hail, the boys is in the house, morning on. Hank is in the house. Stephen Johnson, I hope you're happy with your Super Sunday. Mr. Quinn's in the house. Sean Short's in the house also. Enough is enough. Don't copy those idiots, said Big Dom. Enough is enough. Don't copy those idiots. Don't copy what idiots? Big Dom. It was me that started the Meltdown videos a long time ago. Go back to the channel. Go back to the channel and check out the history of the channel, because it was me that started the Meltdown videos a long time ago. And then I'm not going to give it up, and I'm not copying anybody. If anybody's copying anybody, well, you have to look a little further. And the channel is doing absolutely fantastic. When you look at the subscribers that we do have finishing off the year, we are finishing off the year with 20,473 subscribers, 20,473. So I am going to keep on doing what I do, and at the end of the day, I don't want to copy other channels. There's a lot of channels out there, and you've got to kind of stand out, and I think that we do a good night of that, a good deal of that. Anyway, no hi to Baz, that's Carly's gig. Carly will be too busy this morning. Loving the meltdowns. Morning, Baz, and all the Celtic Sports, says Anthony. Big Deal Boy is Mike. Big Deal Boy's in the house. James is in the house. Frank Bonner's in the house. Craig Meekin is in the house. Celtic Girls in the house. Also, and Christopher coming in from good old France. How is France this morning with you, maybe? Anyway, let's listen to Brendan Rodgers from yesterday talking about Celtic and to the end of 2024.
2024 on a high, and some of the stats over the year. I'm sure goals figured in those stats. I'm sure clean sheets were in there, and a number of victories and performances. But that was a fine way to finish today.
Yeah, it was how you'd want to finish. I thought from minute 1 to the 94th minute we were outstanding in the game. Firstly, our pressing and denying St Johnstone's space, because I've seen them and they like to play and they can give you a problem with the ball, but our pressing, we didn't give away any chances really in the 18-yard box, and so our pressing from the front, middle, and the line moving was very, very good. And I thought with the ball we were excellent. We were fast. We made lots of runs. How you'd want to break the line, created lots of opportunities. Maybe didn't quite finish some of them, but our play and our goals was outstanding. And I think the focus of the players was so good. So I'm very proud of that performance.
For those not at the game today, it might not have been as obvious what the conditions were like, but they were wild in moments, and I thought we handled that very well, particularly Rio Hatate with the set-up for the first goal. It's a wonderfully weighted pass and a fantastic run by Nicholas Kuhn.
Yeah, well, again, it all comes from that transition, because they play the ball forward, we then get numbers around the ball. So we've got good numbers occupying the space around the ball, we've got access to it, we win it back, and then what Rio has, he's got a great pass, and not only a great pass, he can see it. So and that's what we want to do when we win the ball back. Can we pass forward and run forward? And that was a perfect example of that, and a great finish by Nick.
How happy are you to have Kyogo back amongst the goals this afternoon, and well deserved also?
Yeah, 2 very good goals. I'm not necessarily concerned of the striker score or not. I think my teams have always been, the goals have always been shared around the team, wingers, eights, other players getting into score. But it is important for strikers to hit the back of the net. That's what they want, and yeah, a couple of very good finishes.
And Arne Engels now imposing himself on matches, and that's 2 Daffabet man of the matches in a row. Again, must be pleased to see his consistency at the moment.
Yeah, I think he's imposed himself since he's been here. I think it's a young guy who's adapting to how we play and how we work, and you can just see his confidence growing all the time and getting better and better. So, and that's what development is. It's giving people time to improve, and we're now seeing a young player at 21 who's got many great attributes, and we see that in his game. So yeah, delighted for him.
But that comment by Brendan has basically just closed down. That comment by Brendan has closed down all the naysayers and all the people that say Arne Engels is a waste of money. Brendan Rodgers knows what a player goes through when he first comes to Celtic. Brendan Rodgers is now seeing what he knows is a good player in Arne Engels. So can we now stop all the nonsense that Arne Engels cost too much and he's not a great player? You've just heard it from Brendan Rodgers himself, and it's something that I've been banging on over the last couple of weeks. The fact that Arne Engels is only 21 years old and people are comparing him with players that are 4 or 5 years older, it's absolutely ludicrous. Baz is a funny wind-up merchant. He is that. It's absolutely ludicrous that we say that Arne Engels is a complete waste of money. I'm so glad that Brendan Rodgers just came out with that and he says we're starting to see the best of a player that's now starting to settle into Celtic. And Arne Engels, is going to be some friggin' player for us. Anyway, let's listen to more of Brendan this morning.
Around the world we'll get ready to see in 2024. How would you reflect and summarise on this past calendar year as manager of Celtic?
Well, I said to the players afterwards, I'm very proud, firstly as the Celtic manager, because I think when we look back on the statistics on this season, it really will be a historical season for us in terms of numbers and what we've achieved. So from that perspective, very proud. But as a Celtic supporter, I look and I see what these guys give the team, and what they give every day of their life, and also the staff, all around the club, the team that's working very closely with the players, everyone. It's been a really special season for us, winning 3 trophies, but having that humility and perseverance to want to keep improving. So I think 2024, as a manager, I'm very proud and really excited by what 2025 can bring.
On behalf of all the fans, thank you for 2024, Brendan.
Pleasure.
Unbelievable end to the year. When you see what Brendan Rodgers has done for Celtic, over the last couple of seasons. I mean, we got to a level under the previous manager, Ange Postecoglou, and you've got to admit, Brendan Rodgers has taken what was a winning format with Ange, and he's tweaked it in his own style, and it took him a while to tweak it. And we can recall the conversation with Joe Hart saying that when it got to Christmas under Brendan Rodgers' season last year, and Joe Hart is an experienced goalkeeper that's worked with some of the top managers around the globe, you could say, during his time in football. He was wondering when Brendan Rodgers was going to implement his own style. Brendan Rodgers came back to Celtic and didn't do too much to start with. He didn't interfere with things. He tried to keep the status quo, and then bit by bit he's implemented his style, his way of playing. And you've got to say, we've been at the beginning of this season in 2024-25 season, we were absolutely on fire. We were unbelievable at the start of the season, and it got the expectations of the fans to go off the scale. It got the expectations of the fans going into the Borussia Dortmund game that far off the scale that we thought that we were going to do something against Borussia Dortmund, a team that were in the Champions League final. And when you look back at that one result, it's not been a bad season. You know, we got caught in the headlights in that game. And I think sometimes you need a game like the Borussia Dortmund game. The players needed that game. The management needed that game. The fans, ultimately, the Celtic fans ultimately needed that Borussia Dortmund game as a little bit of a wake-up call, because a little bit of a reality check, a little bit of an understanding where we are in the hierarchy of clubs in European football. Our spend, I think, is something like 120 million or something on that was spent on players. When you've got clubs like Real Madrid that have spent 1.3 billion, let's put things into perspective. What Celtic have went on to achieve is absolutely massive. What we learned from the Dortmund game is how to defend unbelievably well. We were a shambles in the Dortmund game. We were caught open all over the place. We were like rabbits in the headlights. We then moved on to the Atalanta game in Italy, and that was a masterclass in defending. We ended up having to defend for our lives, and it was a draw that was it was a draw that I called out that we could get before the season started, even though they did win the Europa Cup in Europe last season. But it was a massive result, and that was the turning point. It was the turning point in our season. I think when we look back over this season especially, I think that the Borussia Dortmund game was a massive turning game in the expectations of everybody within the support and the club, but it was a realisation. And when Brendan Rodgers spoke after the Dortmund game, he says, look, it wasn't a surprise that they got beat. It wasn't a surprise that Celtic didn't expect to take anything from the Borussia Dortmund game. And when they looked at it, as we all did, when we looked at it at the beginning of the season, and we looked at the Champions League games, and we thought, right, there's some good, we could finish, we could qualify. We can qualify. We can get 12 points. That was my target. I said, if we get 12 points, it's a fantastic Champions League season. To get 12 points when we regularly get no more than, sometimes we didn't even get 3 points, 4 points. And I understand it's a new format. But you look what the players and everybody, and for Brendan Rodgers to mention everyone in the club. It's not just the players on the park that do it. I mean, it's the players on the park that grind out the results. But everything, the infrastructure in the back of the club that is in such fine tune at the moment. I mean, Brendan Rodgers then saying that he's looking forward to 2025 because ultimately he's wanting to progress in the Champions League if we can. I mean, we're going to get a really. The draw that we're going to get, we're not going to be seeded because we're not going to finish above the 16th position. But the fact that we've got 2 games to try and qualify for the playoff positions, for the last 16. We're in the playoff positions. If we can win those 2 games and qualify for the knockout phase of the Champions League, that'd be a massive, massive turnaround. And the way that Arne Engels is now coming on as a player, it's only going to be really good for Celtic. Anyway, let's move on from that. That's enough of Brendan Rodgers and Celtic this morning. We'll get rid of that tab. When we look to Instagram, there's a couple of other guys, Myra and Nico Kuhn took into Instagram. Also, Nico Kuhn took to Instagram last night. What a good way to end the year, +3. Nico Kuhn talking about the fact that he has won three trophies in 2024. For a player that was much a journeyman through his young career, having come from playing in Holland to then playing in Germany and then ending up in Vienna. It's a player that thought he was never going to make it to the top of the game. It's a player that had aspirations to make it to the top of the game. It's a player that's got aspirations to play for Germany. It's a player that had aspirations to play in the Champions League. But the way that his career was going, it didn't maybe look as if he was going to get that until Celtic come knocking at the door. And Nicholas Kuhn, taken to Instagram to say a good way to the end of the year, +3 with his hands up. That's a player that gets Celtic. And I just hope that Celtic can keep a hold of Nicholas Kuhn as long as we can. Now, at this stage, I am going to talk about some Celtic transfer business and some headlines that are kicking around, but over the next 24 hours, well, over the next day, where is the timer? The next day, that is the transfer window timer. It opens in 1 day, 15 hours and 3 minutes and 10, 9, excuse me. And that is the countdown timer to the when the 1st of January and the transfer window opens. But before we talk about transfer window and Celtic and everything good, it's time to entertain you. And no, I'm not going to do a Robbie Williams impersonation, not this morning. Let's jump into the comment section first of all before. The Young Boy games, Jason Lee says the Young Boy game is huge. It is huge, but it's a game that I think that we will win. They're already out of the Champions League. Big Dom says Brendan is recruiting quality in January, primarily for the Champions League, in my opinion. Big Dom, you are so correct. Lanky goes, there's plenty of positives this season so far, but a lot of people thought that we would get rattled in the Champions League. We just do our talking on the pitch. It's very true. Lanky. Craig Young says, Angry Bears are hilarious. They're that. We got wrecked by Dortmund, says Jason Lee. We learned and we got better. We battled Aberdeen, and they had been spinning. They've been spinning since. Yeah, they've been on in free fall. Chris Fraser coming out of the good old USA, if I remember right, Chris. 2 defeats in 14 months. You know, and when we put that into perspective, 2 defeats in 14 months, that's the sign of a really good team. I said, and you will remember this, because I said 7 games into the season, if you look back at the videos, I said, statistically, at this point, this Celtic team are better than the Invincible season. And we're going to do we'll do a quick poll, because there's a couple of hundred folk on. Doing a lot of poll. Can this team be better? Now remember the video that I did 7 games into the season. Oh, sniffles this morning. 7 games into the season, I said then that statistically, this team are currently better than the team that was invincible. Yes, the team that was invincible. Skiddy Pants. You come on just to say Baz brushes his teeth with bobbies. You wait all that time. You wait for 5 minutes to subscribe to the channel and then come on just to say that. Wow, that's such a fucking grown-up thing to say at this time of the morning. I bet you just sit and pokey-bum wank yourself all morning waiting to say that, don't you? Skitty Pants sits and pokey-bum wanks himself. Pokeball wanks himself. I'm going to mention bars. Anyway, by that, you are now gone. You're hidden from the channel from forever. Forever hold your wished, because you're now gone from the channel. You can never comment again. I fancied the Invincible season from about 5 games in, says Mark. Skiddy, you're raging. You're not. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, when we talk about 7 games into the season, the statistics said at the time that this team that Brendan has just now were statistically better than the team that went invincible. Now, everyone said, calm down, Baz, we're only 7 games into the season. It's an absolutely ludicrous thing to say. And I said, well, let's get to the end of the year. Let's get to the end of the calendar year and we'll readdress the fact. And I still think, and I still see it, ignore the moons, but Chris, I just love them. It's the fact that they come on. It's the fact that I'm in their heads 24/7. It's brilliant. But anyway, statistically, this team are better than the 2016-2017 team, and that is some undertaking, by the way. That is some undertaking. We've got a goalkeeper in Kasper Schmeichel. We'll talk about him in a minute as well, because he comes in under the transfer speculation, and will he sign a new contract? Good morning, Stephen Johnson. But before then, Skiddy Pants has just put me in the mood for a little bit of a meltdown. Yes, they are talking about their new manager. I wasn't going to go into this video, but since we've had a little a nice meltdown from one of their own coming onto the channel saying that trying to abuse me verbally, well, they're deciding on their new manager, even though the current manager has not been sacked. So let's listen to the possibilities of managerial material for the 2025 edition of Sevco.
Box managerial possibilities, and we were keen to get this one out today, just obviously in the wake of that 2-0 draw with Motherwell. There seems to be a pretty united feeling around the sport that Clement's time is up, and it's a case of when, not if. So we thought we would take a look at potential targets that could take over.
Yay, that's it. We're not even at the end of 2024, and we're not right at the end of 2024, but we're looking for the new 2025 edition of the new Ibrox manager.
So, first choice for the scouting team at the Journal is Kevin Muscat, and I think that applies to an awful lot of the fans. He plays quick, attacking football. There's aggressive pressing. He's got a track record of improving and getting the most out of players. And he holds players generally to a higher standard. He doesn't tolerate anyone going below that. These are kind of things that we've all talked about in relation to Rangers in the last few years. So potentially Muscat's the man to fix that. He also takes us into the Asian markets. He's got good knowledge of players over there, playing in multiple leagues.
They do think that they're Celtic, don't they? They're like, let's just copy Celtic.
He has a winner's mentality, and
wait a minute, he has a winner's mentality. Didn't the current manager that they've got win 3 championships in a row in Belgium?
Possibly most appealing to the board would be the fact that, as far as we know at the time of recording, he is out of contract the 31st of December. So
he's out of contract tomorrow. So there's nothing to pay.
Just 2 days away. That said, there's a lot of other managers out there that would actually potentially really suit Rangers, and here is the pick from our scouting team. So number 1 name on the list is Marek Papsen. He is 50 years old.
Mark Papsen. He's going to get popped out. Never mind Papsen.
Currently manages Rakow, and he's under contract until June the 30th, 2026. So there would be some sort of fee involved if we were to move for him. Papsen, game, get as many players into the box as possible. Been used to.
Right, well, let's get to the next one.
And he's taken 4 domestic cups on the way, so he is very much the kind of man that could drive a rebuild. He's got previous for it, and
another rebuild. How many rebuilds do you do? It's like they've got an old Ford Escort, and they've got an old Mark I Escort that's just a rust bucket. That is just it is just a rust bucket, and I mean that in the sense that their stadium is to get a lot of new metal, and the fact that they're having to go through this rebuild process, and it's like, do you know what? Just like strip it down and start again. Oh, wait a minute, they did that, didn't they? They went into liquidation and died in 2012. And that was them stripping it down and starting again. And it's never really worked, has it?
Successful previous. I guess the one bright spot for Rangers fans is sometimes their experiences in Europe, and you know what, Papson is more than capable of delivering that as well. He's used to working on a small budget, and you could argue that he's actually overachieved, winning the Polish league, which, whilst we might not like it again in our current situation, probably is directly applicable to Rangers. Next up on the list is Kim Hellberg. So this one is the youngest on the list, and the scout guys have acknowledged that in some respects it would be a bit of a gamble when it comes to Hellberg. But Kim Hellberg, he currently manages Hammarby. He's under contract until the 1st of January 27, so again, there's potentially that fee if we were to move for him. Preferred formation is either 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3.
Rip it up and start again.
There's a bit of flexibility in there, and that translates into his style, actually. He does make quite a lot of in-game style of play. Does
He's bored,
will change the team. Their aim, ultimately, is just to win the ball back as quickly as possible, and not going to get, so probably one to watch, but definitely an outside contender at the minute.
Next up
is Wilfried Nancy. Now, this guy, he currently manages in the MLS. His preferred formation is 3-4-2-1. He has managed exclusively in the MLS, and
that's going to stand him in good stead for Scottish football then, isn't it?
Some fans, that might be a bit of a recent kind of scar tissue from American players hasn't worked out. They haven't adapted to the SPFL. And I suspect there might be some worry that a coach that's kind of coached solely there might fit that same bracket. The thing with Wilfried Nancy is he is expected to make the jump to Europe. Again, a lot of positive attention. He's taken a team that collectively,
who cares?
Definitely one worth keeping an eye on. Next on the list is Kurban Kurbanov. He's Azerbaijanian. He has managed Karabakh for a long time now. He is currently under contract, so again, fee to approach. That one runs till June 30th, 2025. Preferred formation is either a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. So
Jesus, this guy's bored me to death.
Bit of adaptability. He's in for a fee of about 400.
Right, let's get the next one.
Now, he's Croatian. Next on the list is Niko Kovac. Now, he's Croatian. He is without club at the minute, so again,
he's without a club.
Might appeal to the board. Less involved to bring him in. Plays a few different formations. Noted for playing 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, or 5-3-2. He's quite flexible. Formations change game to game and during games again, so a bit like Hellberg that we talked about previously, he has got that fluidity and that ability to change within game. He's quite noted for wanting to play a formation or a style that fits the players that he has, as opposed to
it's just a shipping
has
forecast.
a formation and the players will fit it. And again, that's something we've seen quite a lot of recently. We've kind of been wedded to the 4-2-3-1 for a long time. Again, it might be quite good to see a coach that is willing to change it up as and when. When it comes to attacking, is about the movement and always looking for.
Right, let's get the next one.
That's the list that we've got for you tonight. I hope some of those interest you. We will post a link to the previous video.
Yeah, there we go. I don't think we'll watch that. And the wind coming over Scarborough is south to southwest, 6 to 7. And the wind coming over from Shetland is 6 to... I'm sure he does the weather forecast, doesn't he, on the shipping channel? Does that still go out, that thing? Anyway, let's. Do we have any more meltdowns from then? I didn't think we did we? No, we do. We can listen to. And if you remember, there's a massive, famous Celtic fan on the land of Twitterati, Dominic Diamond. Yes, you remember Dominic Diamond from his game shows in the UK in the 1990s. He now stays in Canada, I think it is. He stays he does a radio station in Canada. He's been talking about Clement, but he's also talking about that Clement isn't concerned. We're going to listen to this because Clement's not concerned at all.
No, I'm not concerned about that because I'm only busy with the team. And we knew before the season what project and what challenging project it would be. On that side, it's difficult to speak about that because you will not understand and people outside maybe will not understand. But there has been an evolution made. The last 2 games not, for sure not. And we have hurt ourselves in that way, but there were good games the last couple of weeks where the team showed the potential. In that way, there are already teams interested in some players for the future, what we didn't have the last 2 years. So we're taking steps, but you cannot speak about that after losing points against St. Mirren and against Motherwell. I know, but we hurt ourselves, so that the players, staff, me, all together, the responsibility that we get these goals against. And the difficulty in that is it's
if you want to lose cortisol,
avoidable individual mistakes in those moments, and 2 times that opponent kills it also off directly, not with missing a chance, but they directly score. So we need to work hard now in a few days to be much more resilient and much more determined in these defensive actions. That's going to be one part of the game, but of course also with the ball.
Anyway, if you remember that they did say, they said, come the derby, it'll be a 5-point gap when we're back in it. Lads, we're going for 56. Rangers are back, they said. We said absolutely nonsense. But he's a bit disillusioned, isn't he? But the penultimate and not the end. Coming up to the end, we are on the 30th of December 2024. And it would be a shame, really, not to include this special person. Yes, someone that is dear to our heart on the channel. Someone that, let's face it, gives us a fantastic amount of views. And people have started jumping all over Chris Boyd. Yes, Chris Boyd. It's time to listen to Chris Boyd this morning.
Listen, I've got a bit of an issue with the whole thing in terms of sports science. I think they run too many football clubs. You know, I look at, and we can only judge on where we were as players. And by the way, it's got a lot better in terms of the facilities that you can use now to recover and everything. But in terms of when I hear, you know, he comes on fresh, Czerny and Egeman, it was 45 minutes. 45 minutes is doing absolutely nothing for you. He came on because you needed a result. Sports science won't get sacked, the manager will get sacked, and the fans will be asking questions of the manager as to why he's relying on them. And they'll be looking to this new leadership team at Rangers for decisions now, because it's no good enough. But again, I'll go back to, I played in a team that got to the UEFA Cup final. Davy Weir was 38-year-old and played 61 games that year. 61 games.
That was how long ago, Chris? That was 2008, mate. Football's changed since then. There's one thing that hasn't changed. The continual meltdown by Chris Boyd.
Football changed, though. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but in terms of
the recovery changed. Carlos Quella played 65, Barry Ferguson played 62. You go back, not so long ago as well, when Rangers got to the Europa League final, 2019. Conor Golson, 61 games. James Tavernier, 58. Joe Aribo, 50. And it was over 7 players played 50 times.
Ooh.
No change that much. Players want to play football. It's an excuse that's used time and time again to rest players, to drop players, and it's sports science. As a manager, you will lose your job off the back of it. These guys don't care as long as they're all right. See if a new manager comes in, they will change whatever their thoughts on sports science is to suit the new manager that comes in. They're only interested in themselves. So if Philip Clement is going to lose his job off the back of sports science, and that is running Rangers Football Club at this moment in time, then that's his issue.
Yeah, is there more perhaps emphasis put on duty of care of players though, James? I mean, I understand Chris's point, but you have to also understand Philip Clement's point that he can't put players on if there's a potential they will get injured.
He did half time.
Man.
He's speaking about the players who he felt as if could have been in. Cherny, the exact same in the European game. The first players he goes to is the ones that he said needed a rest. He needs a result. Cherny comes on.
Duty of care for what? Like, their job's to play football and be ready to play football. So I understand, from the sports science point of view,
it's just another meltdown Monday. Ooh, I thought it was Sunday. Ooh, it's just another meltdown Monday.
You're looking at, red zones, and you're trying to predict when a player's going to get injured. But I just think players, it's your job to play football. Be ready for it.
Yeah, and there we go. That was Chris Boyd having these. Yes, a little bit of a meltdown. Anyway, let's get on to the Celtic transfer news. We did speak about. We've done a poll, and it's done quite well this morning. In fact, there's been over 908 people on the poll this morning, on the video this morning. 324 current viewers. I did ask the question: can this team be better than the 2016-2017 team? And 92% said yes. 8% strangely have said no, even though the statistics currently show that the team is on course to be better than the 2016-2017 team. So it's interesting. It is interesting that we have a few folks that say that the team isn't better than the 2016-2017 that went the season unbeaten. I used to hate Mondays, but I like them now, says Jason. Mr. Quinn says, hit the thumbs up, yes, because there is only 66 thumbs up, and there's been over 950 people on the video so far. Right, anyway, Brendan Rodgers reveals that he hopes that Celtic are close to unearthing another hidden gem to follow in Nico Kuhn's footstep. When the January window opens, yes, when the January transfer window opens in 1 day, 14 hours, 42 minutes and 10 seconds. That is when the transfer window opens. That's time we'll stay up until New Year's Day when we're doing the lives. And any transfer speculation that does come in over the next 24 hours, we will be jumping straight onto that. But Brendan Rodgers has revealed that he hopes that Celtic are close to unearthing another hidden gem. So the hidden gem will not be for sure Kieran Tierney. It won't be Kieran Tierney because, let's face it, he's not a hidden gem. The hidden gem will not be the guy from Brøndby because I don't think he's a hidden gem either. So it sounds like the Celtic are working on things that no one has an idea about in the transfer market, which is absolutely fantastic. Anyway, with the cries yesterday, of here we go to 10 in a row, crying out around Celtic Park, it was fantastic because when you're watching the game yesterday, you could hear the Celtic fans giving a little roar in the middle of the game. And the fact that VAR saved that other mob yesterday, the fact that VAR did manage to save them, because let's face it, there was a couple of goals chopped off against them, but who cares? Anyway, back to the Celtic transfer. The fact that Celtic are still in for the Brøndby striker Mathias Kidsforgarden. It looks like Celtic may go back for him. Remember, we lost out to Kidsforgarden a couple of seasons ago. We were about 400 grand short. I'm sure it's going to cost a lot more than that. But there's another one kicking around this morning also, is the Manchester City youngster James McAtee. He's been mentioned. The 22-year-old is managing to get some game time for Pep Guardiola's side, but let's face it, Man City are absolute garbage, and I think that there's going to be a lot of people jumping ship from Man City. Now, Man City is a club that Celtic have raided before with great effect. When we think about one player that has still got a payday when he gets his transfer for around about 10 to 15 million when he finally gets transferred to a club in England. But with the potential new signings coming in January, Brendan Rodgers is saying that Celtic are likely to seal a special ace. But there's also the talk about the Kieran Tierney situation. Everyone seems to think that the Kieran Tierney deal will now happen in January. Some people are saying, well, leave it. It looks like Arsenal are willing to rip up his contract just to get him off the books. The fact that he has no part in Mikel Arteta's plans. And one of our own has said that, I'm trying to look at the comments here, it's flying, the comment section is flying through. Boy for Benny offer, I would like to see a striker come in that's hitting the back of the net week in, week out. I was an Ida fan, but he's not doing the business now. He's signed. Kyogo's work rate is brilliant though. Hope you're good, mate. And we do need, I've spoke about this on various occasions, we do need another striker to come into Celtic that is not a project signing. We need another striker that's going to push your two strikers to up their game. I said yesterday that I think that it's a mindset thing with Kyogo. When he's got that little niggling doubt, you've seen the niggling doubt with the goal, with the opportunity that he missed yesterday, but then thankfully he starts getting them in the back of the net. Will that change Kyogo? I don't think that Kyogo will be sold, but we do need a third striker to push our current two strikers, because when one's playing, the other one's not playing, and there's no pressure on them. They know they'll be sitting on the bench. They know that they'll get some game time. They know that they'll come on in the 70th minute or something. And that's not pressure for position. We do need that third choice striker to push our current strikers. Anyway, I've totally lost where I was going with that. The fact that Kieran, that's a brilliant picture. I was there. I was right in front. I'm going to get this Kieran Tierney picture because I was standing right in front of Kieran when this picture was taken. And people will say, oh, you can't turn back the clock. Let's get this up on the screen. So it's Kyogo one. Show that. That is the best picture of Kieran Tierney. I'd bring him back just for that, because I remember being standing right in front of him that day, just to the where you see the Celtic media guy to your right hand side as you're looking at it. I was standing just right about there when Kieran Tierney got that picture taken, and you've got to say it was an absolutely fantastic day. It looks like Kieran Tierney will be back. Some fans are happy, some fans are saying that he's not worth it. Will he be on 40 grand a week? Will he be on 100 grand a week? There's certainly one thing, he's not going to be on 100 grand a week coming back to Celtic. He will take a massive wage cut, but it does look like Brendan Rodgers is trying to sign some other players, so we just need to wait and see what happens with that. Let me just see if there's any more Celtic headlines. Jeremy Culloch shares what Celtic fans were singing after Rangers floundered at Motherwell. I think we all know what they were saying. There's headlines. I'm just going to read this one. That's just talking about players that are likely to leave Celtic. I think that we all know who they are. 5 escalating Celtic transfer headlines. Tierney, Palma, Jota. Jota one, I don't say Jota one's going to happen, because the manager, Jota's current manager, has come out and said that Jota's not fit, and that's why he's not getting game time. And I just don't think that if Celtic are going to unearth the next Nico Kuhn, I think going for Jota would be a step backwards. Johnny Kenny could be the third striker, says Paul Baird. I'm all for that, but is he good enough? And does he play? And I don't mean this in a bad way to him, but is he experienced enough to push the other two strikers? I think that we really need to go and get an experienced striker that will push them. You can bring Johnny Kenny. That's a cheap option. And is Brendan Rodgers willing to go for that cheap option? Is that? I mean, I thought we'd moved away from the big Mo Salah's coming to paradise. No, he's not. Jesus, Jordan would need a season to get his confidence back, says Richard. We'll go back to the Kenny situation, the Johnny Kenny situation. I mean, is he a good enough striker to push? He's an okay backup striker, and he's a fine backup striker, but I think that we're in a position now, and Brendan Rodgers, you have to think about what Brendan Rodgers, what he wants to do with the club. He does deserve his chance, Paul. I know he does deserve his chance. And he'll be given that opportunity, and he'll be given that chance. But my thinking is the way that Brendan Rodgers is looking at the club to be better in the Champions League. Does Johnny Kenny have that experience, and does he have the quality to push Kyogo for a place in the team? And that's what you're ultimately talking about. I mean, it's okay, I'm coming, and will he want to come back and just sit on the bench? I don't think that I think that the way that Celtic have moved forward with transfers and people coming into the club, they're not looking for people to come in and just be happy sitting in a third choice position. I think that the club want to get back to the way that we had it under Martin O'Neill, when you've got three fantastic strikers. And I don't know if Johnny Kenny ultimately, he deserves his chance at Celtic, and he's went out and he's had his football education. He'll get back and he'll be in training next week with Brendan Rodgers. But ultimately, I think that we need to get back to the Larsson, the Sutton, the Larsson, Sutton, and Henrik Larsson, Sutton, and Larsson, Sutton, Hartson situation. We need to get back to that, where you've got three cracking first choice strikers, and they're battling out for one or two positions. Ultimately, Brendan Rodgers has got a massive decision to make, whether he changes the formation of the team, or does he keep to the 4-3-3 that he seems to like. I would like to see us playing two up front. I think that there's but Brendan Rodgers wants goals coming out. He said that in his interview. He said, look, he's not worried. He's not overly worried that Kyogo's not been firing on all cylinders, because I want my teams to have goals from all around the team, which is fair enough. But some of us are stuck in that old-fashioned football sense where you're thinking that your striker's got to score the majority of goals. It's been a long time since we've had a Lee Griffiths type of player. I mean, that can consistently score inside the box. If Lee, could you imagine an on-form Lee Griffiths in this team? He would. I mean, it's a different era now, and there's the age thing that. But currently, if you took Lee Griffiths from when he was at his time at Celtic, and if he was to be in that Celtic team now, he would be scoring 40-50 goals a season, easily. Lanky says, I think getting a player like Scott McDonald helps us, especially the way we set up. Yeah, exactly. We need to get a striker of that kind of quality that can come in. And I hope Johnny Kenny does come back. And can he be, there's Graham said it, Kenny would be the catalyst that our front line needs to push Aidan Kyogo. But does he have that? Does he really have that? Brendan Rodgers won't change the two up front, says Paul Baird. Tav, the only defender in history to be man-marked by a forward. Can't wait till Thursday. Yep, can't wait till Thursday. Also, right, anyway, that's that headline. I'm just going to through answering questions around Cameron Carter-Vickers being linked with Bayer Leverkusen. Brendan Rodgers did say, listen, I haven't seen anything on that, but to be honest, I suspect there will be interest in all of our players. There's lots of gossip and speculation going on, but no, I think our idea is to improve the squad, not sell first team choice players, which includes Cameron Carter-Vickers, which includes Kyogo Furuhashi. They were the two big names that's getting mentioned with moves away from Celtic, as you would expect, because there's a big game on Thursday. That's not a big game because it's a new team that only 12-year-old. But the speculation that went around about these players, I do not expect either to be sold in the next transfer window. It's not Brendan Rodgers' style to sell his first team stars at this window, and he does want to make the team better. With there's lots of other stuff we could talk about, but I am done and dusted for this morning. We will jump on a live later on this afternoon where we'll talk about the players that are looking like they will leave Celtic for definite. So we'll do a bit of a transfer update, and that will just be fully transfer noted, because we are, where is it? They have the countdown timer as 1 day, 14 hours and 30 minutes until the transfer window opens. I wonder if that's when this lad, Kieran Tierney, will make a return to Celtic. And on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day wherever you are, to all the Celtic fans all around the world.
Lit. Roll up to the party, roll up to the party, roll up to the party, roll up to the lit. Roll up to the party, roll up to the party, roll up to the party, roll up to the lit. Roll up to the party, roll up to the party, roll up to the